really like the orchestra. I like the conductor. I like Edward Topchan. We met in Germany sometime, several years ago, and he invited me here, and every time I come here I feel so much sympathy, and I really have always a very good time here. And that's the reason why I love to be here. The personality of an orchestra always changes a little bit. It depends on which musicians are there, but I realize there's a strong tradition from probably it's a Eastern tradition, let's say, maybe not a Russian, but in a way some kind of Russian tradition, especially in the strings, which I like. And my teacher was a Russian or Ukrainian, but he lived in the Soviet Union and then in Germany, so I'm very familiar to this kind of music making. And so maybe even the orchestra now becomes a little more globalized, as a lot of orchestras do. That means that this idea of national schools have kind of disappeared. When you nowadays, when you compare by listening Berlin Philharmonic with New York Philharmonic, the differences are much smaller compared to 50 years ago. And so this orchestra now becomes also more, in a way, more globalized, which is a loss and a win, because the quality is higher, but of course the identity maybe is not that strong as it was before, maybe, but probably this time when there was, the tradition was not even stronger, that's probably a very long time ago. But since I'm here, I realize mainly that the quality becomes better and improves. Just the quality of playing, quality of instruments, quality intonation, and well, playing together and so on. It's always an exchange between an orchestra and a soloist. So I listen to things coming from the orchestra and I kind of react, and I hope the orchestra does as well. So it's very difficult to tell exactly, well, because this instrument plays this that way, I will play this in another way. Probably that doesn't happen, but just the kind of reaction. She gives a ball and I take it over and give it further on to another person. That happens, and there's a lot of attention in the orchestra, just to also to react on what I'm doing. And myself, I'm always interested in getting new ideas and getting new impulses also from the orchestra. And I try to listen very carefully to the orchestra, because finally at the end it's the whole which makes the result. It's not only a soloist and an orchestra, it's the whole together. And that's very important for me. gives a lot of information, and I have to try to understand this information. But in details and in, well, things change smoothly, slowly. And I'm sure when I didn't do that, but when I listened to the old recordings, when I played the first time, I now realize that a lot of things have changed. But it happens by little changes and not, well, now I have heard this or that, or Rachmaninoff, I have learned something about Rachmaninoff, so I will change the whole thing. That never happens with that piece. But it didn't happen. But little things change. That's a little slower, they're a little more time, they're a little faster, and so finally it changes more and more and goes from there to there. But principally, the piece is extremely romantic, and it's very well constructed and very polyphonic, and all these aspects I would like to show. So it's not just the emotion and the big Russian soul, it's also the construction, and it's of course also the international influence Rachmaninoff had. When a composer is a pianist, he writes in a different way. When a composer is not a pianist, he has not so detailed information on what is possible on the piano. And so just pianistically, it's a pianist's work is different. It must not well, it's not necessarily easier, but it's more pianistic. And it has nothing to do with quality. So even a piece of a non-pianist can be a masterwork. But the writing is maybe just pianistically more refined. So there are less unnecessary notes, for example, or pedalizing ideas which just don't work. And when the composer was a pianist, of course, everything works, and the sound is just tried out before, and so of course there's a difference. So it's just a long time we are working together, and every time, even different styles, I realize that he can change according to the style, and he will always be very precise and has very clear ideas of what sound should come out of an orchestra, and he can manage that it happens. That's amazing. I can follow him very, very well. So I really adore this clarity in his thinking and in his showing. So that's for me very important. And of course he's a passionate musician, and that's always also something you need to be. Otherwise music can be a little cool, too cool, which should not be the case.
Yeah.